Hey, everybody. It is October 11th, 10/11/22. It is the Wrestling Inc. podcast, NXT 2.0. I'm Glenn. He's Alfred. Here we are, face to face.
We did it. Alfred Saxon in the building. And it's good to be back.
How's your family doing? You were at a wedding over the weekend.
It was a good wedding. Byron is in good spirits after getting let go from commentary. We are all rallying around him, but the wedding was good. Congratulations to my brother. It was an Indian and West African wedding, so it was just one tradition after another. You saw dropping the broom and going over the 4 different tastes of, that represent marriage, and there was all kinds of great stuff going on. So very beautiful wedding.
Very nice to hear.
I'm not the biggest fan of marriage, but it was beautiful to be in the presence of it.
You know, I mean, players got to play. You know, you got. I was really apprehensive about getting married. Actually, I celebrated my 12th wedding anniversary yesterday. And,
congratulations!
Yeah,
same birthday as Tony Khan.
Oh, there you go. Well, I was very apprehensive about getting married. I had a lot of preconceived notions due to my parents' divorce and a lot of past relationship baggage. And I have to say that almost instantly, I was like, why did I wait so long to do this? I mean, the tax benefits, the health insurance, like. Wow. And the, blessed union of love. I mean, there's that too.
Sure, yeah. And the personal connection you have with another human for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I mean, that part's great. But let me tell you, on the taxes, you're really saving some money.
Yeah, there are financial and practical reasons to get married. I personally think it's so the government can control you easily. But there are also reasons to stay single. Not necessarily not have a partner, but, either or. I really am suspicious of it because of how high the divorce rate is. But some people think it's good. Some people got sick of each other during the pandemic. I think it's just based on what the person feels.
That's what I feel really blessed is that, we do not have those issues. In fact, I mean, we hang out all the time and it's very good. And don't get me wrong, we've been watching Kevin can F himself on AMC Plus, which is, a parody of the sort of schlubby overgrown man child and the too hot for him wife. And there's been a little things that hit close to home, like when he called his business Kev Industries. I was like, ooh, that's a little too close. But no, I think we got a pretty good relationship. I think
that's good.
Of the test. So
you seem to have figured this out. You need to write a book on marriage and do a podcast to people on how to stay married, how to have a nice, lasting relationship.
I mean, you want to know what I think the key is? Meet the person you're going to settle down with, after you've done a bunch of dates. I mean, my wife and I met when we were both essentially 30 years old. So
there you go. Yeah,
we were at a better stage. I think we'd been through the bullshit. Because you're man, think about your first real relationship. That's the one where, that's the prototype. You're really ironing out all the bugs.
Absolutely. Your cells change completely every 7 years. So you essentially become a brand new person every 7 years. So the earlier you get married, the less that will be a representative of who you really are down the line.
Absolutely. But I think I had probably 4 or 5 significant relationships before I met my wife. So I really knew kind of what was going to work and what wasn't. And fingers crossed for at least 12 more. But glad you had a good time at the wedding. So is Byron's still under contract? He's just not.
Yes, they moved him backstage, and I just find the timing very curious that days after this bombshell rumor, and it is a rumor broke that I was a love child of Byron Saxton, they took him off commentary. I just think they don't want any controversy whatsoever.
I think Herschel ruined it for everyone, man.
Yeah. That signed gift card really did him in.
Yeah, you get kids coming out of the woodwork, and all of a sudden people are afraid to put you on, Yeah. Just saying.
I get it. They don't want another Herschel situation, and so they're just taking precautions. But I stand with Byron Saxton.
As you should. Issa just tired tonight, not here. But here in spirit.
Rouge.
It's like she's here.
And she's also heartbroken over what happened to my alleged father. So she'll be back hopefully sooner rather than later, but she's going to need a moment too, and I get it.
Yes, I'm going to be off next week. I'm going to go see my family.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, gonna be a lot of dining outdoors. I texted him. I was like, okay, so we're doing this Monday to Friday, and we're just gonna meet up for outdoor meals.
Meet the Rubensteins. That should be fun.
It'll be good. It'll be a good time. Yeah. So tonight NXT still in the build to Halloween Havoc. Billy Garrison, $9.99 super chat. Billy, you shouldn't have. I saw today E! News interviewed The Rock, and the interview asked him who the tribal chief was, and The Rock said, "You're looking at him." By the way, I've listened to you guys since 2017. Love the show. Thank you so much, Billy. The Rock and Roman, man. I feel like this is Charlie Brown in the football. I'm going to believe once again, and then it's going to be pulled away at the last moment, and he is not going to face Roman at WrestleMania.
That's a good analogy. And I will say it is promising that The Rock is doing an interview like this and going into business and starting up the headlines. I really don't think he would say something like this unless he felt pretty good about eventually facing Roman Reigns, not necessarily at WrestleMania, but I feel like The Rock understands and would appreciate putting over Roman Reigns as to how important that would be to his family, to WWE. I do think it's something he wants to do, and this interview is more indication of that. Whether or not his schedule is going to be able to sync up is a big factor, but this close to WrestleMania, we're relatively close. We're almost to November, and WrestleMania is early next year. So the fact that The Rock is talking like that and creating these headlines, I think is a good sign.
I mean, I think after the Young Rock mention in the show, like, he's aware, he knows, he's on board. He gets it. M. Roos in the chat saying, talk about rumors. The rumors are that CM Punk has an office in AEW, but the twist is he shares it with Colt Cabana's mom.
I really hope that's true.
Alex Diaz, $1.99 super chat. More dangerous, the AEW locker room or the NXT parking lot?
That's a good question. I mean, NXT parking lot is work dangerous. The AEW locker room is work and shoot dangerous. We see people brawl in that parking lot and locker room in AEW. We've seen that stadium stampede that spilled into a locker room, and we've also seen real life brawls happen in that locker room. Nobody is safe in that AEW locker room. I'm telling you, Freddie Prinze Jr. needs to buy the rights to that locker room so that can be his wrestling promotion. I want footage to that. I'm just as interested in All Elite World Star as I am in All Elite Wrestling. I want to see that locker room footage.
There you go. Well, what is going on in the news?
WWE Raw was up big, 1.824 million, even head-to-head against a Monday Night Football game that was a very entertaining game between the Kansas City Chiefs, a headlining team with Patrick Mahomes, megastar, against the Oakland, or actually Las Vegas Raiders. Came down to the last second. Even Devontae Adams shoved a referee or a cameraman after the game, and so a lot of controversy and national attention went to that game. But still, Raw was able to do 1.824 million viewers, 720,1849. That is 38% boost in 18 to 49. So WWE Raw, of course, coming off of Bray Wyatt, which helped move tickets for Extreme Rules, did that huge rating on 923 when people thought he was going to show up. Biggest number they did in 2 years. And then Raw now with fallout for Bray Wyatt. And again, he did not show up on TV. He was advertised for SmackDown, but there's a lot of excitement behind this Bray Wyatt, White Rabbit QR code, people trying to guess and put the pieces together. This Bray Wyatt thing is a success. And oh, by the way, Devontae Adams, that's what you get for leaving the Packers. You're on a Super Bowl contending team for 3 consecutive years, and you decide to go to the Raiders who don't win anything, and now you're 1-4. Don't be surprised that you're not winning with Aaron Rodgers. Of course it's going to happen. Derek Carr's never won anything in his life. Glenn, what do you think about Bray Wyatt?
Well, it cut into the ratings on my beloved Quantum Leap last night. On the heels of his full season pickup, it got the back 6 ordered. But yeah, it was down overall, flat in the demo. But yeah, Bray is making moves, man. And it's good they're teasing him for Friday on SmackDown. I'm looking forward to it. I think people are just going with speculation. This Wyatt 6 idea. Who's going to be a part of the Wyatt 6? What's happening? The Easter egg that when Abby the Witch appeared, when we got Sister Abigail, there were 2 titles that were clearly women's titles. Were they the tag titles or the SmackDown and Raw championship? Does that mean Alexa Bliss is, oh my God, here we are again. Alfred, here we are again. It's like we haven't skipped a year. Like, who's going to be Sister Abigail?
That is the eternal question. That and who's behind GTV will be the 2 unanswered questions in WWE lore. And you mentioned that Wyatt 6 idea. I friggin' hate the Wyatt 6 idea. I've seen all this speculation. Who is Bo Dallas going to be the rabbit? And is Wyndham Rotunda going to be the hawk? And is Vince McMahon is going to be the fiend? And all these speculation. I hope less is more.
Vince McMahon is a fiend, but you know.
Yeah, he might be that fiend too. They might have symbolism for us. I hate this idea of Bray Wyatt's going to get 5 other people and have this big stable. We've seen Bray Wyatt die under the weight of his own creative filth with half of the supporting cast. I think Bray Wyatt is insanely creative, but the last thing he needs is too many cooks in the kitchen, too many different characters intertwining. I really hope that was just a nod to his past and a kiss off, and he does something completely different. You can incorporate elements of the Firefly Funhouse and even resume that. I'd be cool with that. But if we get this full-on stable where it could be convoluted again, which has been a problem 2 times now with Bray Wyatt, 3 times if you count Husky Harris. I don't need this thing to get convoluted because that's what we all love, the honeymoon period. Remember how over he was as the original Bray Wyatt, the cult leader? Remember how over he was as the Fiend before that fell under the weight of its own creative filth? And now I'm loving this Bray Wyatt, and I'm a big fan of Bray Wyatt, but he tends to have a honeymoon period element to him. And this Wyatt 6 thing, I think, would help accelerate people getting sick of him and getting confused. Less is more with Bray Wyatt. They need to realize that.
Now, if he has 6 different characters and he rotates between them, I actually think that's the solution to it getting stale.
Sure, if there is different iterations, yes. And he can't, that outfit that pig was wearing, I mean, these outfits have to be much more badass. Otherwise, let's not even just think about Bray Wyatt. Let's think of all the careers that could potentially be ruined if Karrion Kross is forever known as the pig boy, or, if they put Braun Strowman in that role, you could easily ruin all these careers. So they got to be smart with this.
Muscle Man Bray needs to defeat Roman Reigns for the unified WWE Championship.
Yeah. And then maybe he can be world champion 6 times. I just think people are getting carried away, and I love it. I love this element. This is really eye-opening in terms of this guerrilla marketing, not saying anything on TV, leading to these massive ratings. I think SmackDown is going to do another big number.
Yeah, SmackDown will be huge this week.
They need to not overthink this thing, and I think Wyatt 6 having this whole stable is going to give Bray Wyatt the ingredients to overthink, and that's when this gets away from him.
Yeah, we'll see, man. But man, if there's something wrestling fans love more than the actual product, it's the promise of greatness. Like the promise of greatness is more alluring than the actual payoff, so we'll see.
Yeah, Twitter's very excited about Bray Wyatt, but they will just as easily turn on him if it starts to getting confusing, or if it starts not making sense, or if there's too much hocus pocus. If you do a Wyatt stable with 6 people in it, best believe it's going to be a lot of hocus pocus, and that's what's making me nervous. I've already seen this movie twice now, and maybe it's Stockholm Syndrome. I'm giving it another chance because I believe in Bray Wyatt's potential, but I am cautiously optimistic as to how this could work.
Yeah. What else is going on in the news?
I don't know if you've seen this, Glenn. The latest viral sensation in wrestling. First, we got Luigi Primo at the pizza. We've got Danhausen going viral, and now it's a dog, Glenn. There's a dog who's the biggest star in wrestling right now, Daikiri. He knocked off Psycho Mike with help from his trainer or her trainer, but the dog, defeated Psycho Mike and is a new sensation in all of independent wrestling. So the only question remaining, how long till this dog shows up in AEW?
I mean, is Rampage live this week? Maybe this is why they bumped the women's championship match. What was it, to Elevation or Dark this week, so they can make room for the wrestling dog.
Yeah, I think that dog would draw better ratings on AEW Dark than any of the wrestlers at this point, because it just seems, Tony Storm was just on Dark and people are complaining about it. Dark just seems to be kind of weird, where people get mad somebody of stature competes there.
I mean, it's good to put matches that are meaningful on that show, but it's just like, man, rightfully so, everyone is scrutinizing every move AEW makes with the women's division right now, because that has not been a success, and that's me being very kind.
It really hasn't, and I'm judging that especially based on the level of talent that's in the women's division. This is not a fault of theirs.
No,
it's glaring how little they do and how few stars they've been able to make, given how many people were actually over before even coming to AEW. Yeah. So they had to literally just drop the ball. It wasn't on them to create a lot of these stars. It was on them to keep that momentum going, and they just have not done that.
It's crazy. What else is going on?
Well, I know you're not big into the UFC world in terms of the Diaz brothers, but they're a very polarizing pair of brothers who cause all kinds of problems, are known for drawing very strong pay-per-view buys based on their cults of personality. And Nate Diaz, who once defeated Conor McGregor, had a great feud with him, is one of UFC's biggest stars. Of course, now he's on his way out of UFC and possibly on his way into WWE. He's been showing Instagram stories and videos of him dapping up Stephanie McMahon. He posted a photo of him with WWE executives, And there are now rumors that Nate Diaz could be on his way to WWE in the Triple H era, which I think has done a good job, and more specifically the Nick Khan era that has done a good job of incorporating celebrities and outside talent. I think this could be one of the better incorporations they have. He's a very, very, not necessarily a great talker in terms of cutting a promo, but in terms of charisma and just talking trash and cursing people out and having this just attitude, I think Nate Diaz is it. But what do you think about UFC fighters crossing the line over to WWE? Does this at least make you excited to explore who they are?
I mean, it's interesting because unlike other celebrity ties, this is coming from the fighting world, but I don't know. I mean, I get it, but there's also the like stunt fights versus the like Ronda, I'm going to be a part of the locker room and do this because ultimately it's easier wear and tear. I mean, I don't know. I think that it's a very, very attractive, potentially very lucrative exit from the world of real mixed martial arts fighting, and I can't hate on that.
Yeah, it's what he should be doing. And the reason they became such viable pay-per-view draws is because of their antics outside of the octagon. UFC and WWE or pro wrestling have a more symbiotic relationship than you ever will. If you want to become a big star in UFC, you just rip off WWE the way Chael Sonnen did, word for word when it comes to Bret Hart and superstar Billy Graham, the way Ronda did with Roddy Piper, the way Connor did with Ric Flair. These two worlds are very associated. So
how did CM Punk fuck this up so bad?
Yeah, he got the worst of both worlds, really. I mean, at some points, the best in terms of money, but he did see the worst end of the stick on both sides. But listen, the reason CM Punk was so marketable in both companies because he was so controversial. He too, whether you can say what you want about his fighting, which a lot of people will, and rightfully so, but CM Punk drew a big number for UFC out of curiosity alone for his debut match.
You could say what you will about his fighting, and when you're saying it, it will go on invariably 2 or 3 times as long as the actual fight itself.
And the chairs could get thrown, Ace Steel can pull up on somebody. Larry,
where was that fire? Where was that fire in UFC?
AEW needs to mend fences with CM Punk so they can book that dog Daikiri and face him against Larry the Dog. I think that is an AEW caliber matchup. That's going to save Rampage, is these two dogs fighting against each other. You get Michael Vick as a special referee. I mean, come on.
How come no one's figured out how to do kayfabe dog fights? Sorry, now I'm just thinking of The Wire and Cheese and having to put down his dog.
Larry the Dog versus Daikiri the Dog. Michael Vick, special guest referee. We do it in Atlanta. What do you think?
Not touching that one. Gonna go donate some more money to PETA. Okay, let's what else we got?
Our final story, speaking of people with dog in them, Carmelo Hayes worked a main roster show for WWE, a main event. He got the victory over Cedric Alexander. We can see how highly at least Shawn Michaels thinks of Carmelo Hayes based on how he's booked in the Shawn Michaels era of NXT. And of course, Shawn Michaels very close to Triple H, his closest ally in the Triple H era. And I have no reason to doubt that Triple H would be a big ally of Carmelo Hayes. He just, the day he went to the NXT roster, and I'll never forget it, his debut match against Kushida. I've always thought that this guy, as good as he is in NXT, and he's been great in NXT, I've just always thought, man, wait till this guy gets to the main roster. Even in the Vince era where people thought that he was too short and whatnot, I just always felt like Carmelo had the presence of a main roster star. And I look forward to him going there.
It's a different era now, man. That must have been weird with Vince backstage at Raw last night, and like Dallas and Anderson are getting brought back. Like, how many people did Vince like cross paths with that got fired under the Vince era? You know what I mean? Like,
it's insane, and especially when you consider that Gallows and Anderson are probably headed to Saudi Arabia, which, if you know that history in terms of what happened with them, and Anderson and his wife saying they're never going there, it's a whole new day.
How do you think that's going to work? Do you think, okay, Vince is going on that trip, right?
That's a good question. Maybe he goes on there as a guest passenger. Maybe he takes a private charter to Saudi Arabia and just runs into them.
Because I would think Triple H, as like a sign of unity, would be like, we're all going over on one plane this time. Like,
hey, that would win him some points. Maybe he should do that. And here's a question. Because it's overseas water, because we're not in domestic waters, A, does the Saudi kingdom know about what happened to Vince? And B, if not, does Vince produce this show behind the scenes? like nothing ever happened.
Maybe they want. Maybe the KSA royalty wants Vince to wrestle in the do-rag. You know, I mean,
Go.
book him as talent, right? I don't know, man. Like things are tense with the relationship with that part of the world right now. Actually, that's the story, man, because we're less than a month away from that. Look at the fluid situation going on right now with diplomacy and the White House saying things could change very quickly with our relationships with KSA. Like that could be very interesting if WWE bucks any sanctions against that might be put in place in the next 3 weeks.
Yes, and I do think WWE would err on the side of caution. I have less reservations in the Triple H era that they would be stubborn, kicking and screaming away from Saudi. I really do think that WWE would be quicker to pivot from the relationship if it got too serious, if the block got too hot, which, just being optimistic, I hope it doesn't, and I hope things don't come to that point. But if the block got too hot and WWE was taking too much heat, we are in a new era, and I do think the kinder, gentler WWE, at least for now, would make the decision that was best for its PR. Let's just put it that way.
I don't know, man. With that many zeros on a check, I think
it's a lot of money. Money talks. It would have to be an extreme situation too. It would have to come very close to a very, very extreme, unprecedented situation, which I don't see happening. And especially, WWE, I think they're gonna keep getting that check as long as they're giving that money out.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting if AEW is ever extended a similar offer.
They will take it in a heartbeat. Don't F what you heard. These are carnies. Tony Khan is not your zaddy. We have this whole generation of anxiety-riddled men who think Tony Khan is their zaddy. He's not your zaddy. So when he's being nice guy Tony and all that stuff and saying that he's the good guy and crown jewel this and that, if they gave him that type of money, Tony Khan would take it. And if he didn't, Warner Brothers would say, sit your ass down, and they would take it.
Yeah. Oh, especially now. But no, seriously, the only chance we will ever get at a Marvel DC style WWE AEW crossover is if KSA wants to bankroll that to the tune of 9 figures. I've never thought about that, but that could absolutely be one way to bring them together. Another would be Warner Brothers Discovery and NBC Universal merge, which can theoretically happen. People on the inside, the streets are telling me that it is at least a possibility of Warner Brothers and NBC Universal merging, especially if NBC Universal buys WWE and it's out of Triple H and these wrestling people's hands. If it's just this corporate conglomerate owning these two companies, yes, they're absolutely going to do Marvel versus DC. The only reason we don't see Superman versus Spider-Man is because Sony owns Marvel and Warner Brothers owns DC, and it's copyright and likeness issues. But if one company owned both, absolutely. And they've done it before, and it's always been disappointing when they've done the team ups and crossovers. But it happened like right before the first X-Men movie came out. They did a bunch of crossover, and they actually did a bunch of mashup comics where it was like Wolverine and Batman like mashed up together, and it was all kind of dumb. But
yes, I forgot his name. He got canceled, and he also did that comic or that video on Triple H's career. His name is Max something. He had a Batman versus Joker, or actually a Superman versus Joker crossover that was pretty decent, and that I think could have made it for a good beginning of a storyline arc. But it's not going to happen with him attached to it because of what went down with his career.
We don't talk about Max something anymore.
Yeah, Max something. That's all.
It was a good video at the time. His dad, John something, also had some issues in the 80s and surprisingly bounced back from it. But I don't think Max something's coming back.
The something shall remain anonymous.
Yes. Not touching that one. Oh man, the other night I was flipping channels. So here's the thing, dude. We have unlimited streaming options, but I've got the bootleg cable for the last year or so. And I've been putting that on, and it's like all the channels. And it's like, forget Netflix, forget on demand. I just want to flip and put something on in progress. And if I enjoy like 5 minutes of it, I'll watch. So I've got a lot of movies now that I've seen like 80% of, but not the whole thing because I started it late. But it's such a joy to rediscover watching things that way. But then the other danger is that, it's like 2 a.m. and I'm like, oh, maybe I'll go to bed and maybe I'll watch a few minutes of something. And I was like, oh, No Way Home's on, Spider-Man. And then I watched the entire thing. But the other night it was like Nightcrawler's on, and I was like, I'll just put it on for a minute because Jake Gyllenhaal rocks in that film. And it was like, nope, watching the entire movie. There's been a lot of that lately.
There's a bunch of movies like that for me. Forrest Gump is a movie that I'll never be able to just not watch the rest of, no matter where it is. Dumb and Dumber is a movie like that.
Really?
Booty Call is a movie like that. There's a lot of movies that I just, Friday,
I did watch all of You Got Served again the other day because that was on. And normally I turn on You Got Served at the end, like when Lil Kim shows up. But this time it was like very early, and I forgot about Beautiful with 2 L's. But yeah, You Got Served is a solid film.
You're gonna get me to watch one of these days because
you gotta watch
really
You Got Served. You gotta watch you gotta watch it because the bad guy, I kid you not, the evil crew is just called Wade's crew, and it's this dude Wade that looks like he should be in Lincoln Park or Papa Roach or something with his spiked hair. And they have to explain like he's from Orange County, which is like coded language for saying he's white. But it's like, we see you, Wade, we understand. But Wade's, and I don't want to spoil it for you, but and Omarion does a great job in the film.
Yeah, I do remember seeing it. I just don't remember much about the storyline and plot points because I was only watching the movie to learn the dance moves.
Oh, Lil Saint, man. Yeah, you got to watch. And Steve Harvey and Jack Hay are in it.
That's right. Steve Harvey is in it. Uncle Steve is in that movie.
Yeah, and I love Jack Hay. Jack Hay elevated Ladybugs, for Christ's sakes. Jack Hay is great in everything. Oh, but now we have to talk about NXT. In the comments, we're going to see the NXT talk starts 25 minutes into the podcast. But that's okay. Because if you're going to talk about anything, it's You Got Served. It's worthwhile. Dylan Matthews, thanks for the super chat and saying, should Mr. Stone have been Max Dupree all along? I think Mr. Stone is feeling pretty passed over right now. I can't believe Mr. Stone's still in NXT.
Very interesting. I believe Robert Stone might have been able to pull that gimmick off better long term. Maybe there
as opposed to the guy that like didn't give a shit about it at all.
Clearly did not want to be part of that gimmick. And especially because Robert Stone is more fashionably inclined. He's a guy that takes more risks than LA Knight or Max Dupree ever did in terms of fashion wise.
And where is Tiffany Stratton?
The hunt continues.
She posted something on Instagram the other day.
She did. And a lot of people took that as her returning and welcomed her back as if she was going to be booked in a match. Maybe she's just on the wrong side. Not even maybe. She's definitely on the wrong side of a pay-per-view cycle. They've been building this Halloween Havoc card up for weeks that she's not on. So now that it's over, I expect to see her very soon. Maybe at Halloween Havoc itself, but starting the week after when it's time to build some new feuds, absolutely I see her.
Yeah. No, totally. Well, tonight we opened with Braun Breaker versus Big Body Javi. And if you thought this was going to be a great exhibition match to make a new star, you'd be wrong. Because Braun Breaker won this pretty darn easily.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Big Body Javi. I think he's got something. I think it's a funny name, but not very competitive with Braun. I'm not really excited about this triple threat at all.
No.
I just think it's been a theme his whole run of them giving him very little to work with creatively. In ring, this match is going to slap. It's going to be a fun match. It reminds me of the match that we're about to talk about. Fun match. I'll forget about it in a month.
Braun Breaker, let me say this again. Braun Breaker is very talented. I think he's got a bright future, but as a champion, he has been a notch below vacant in terms of having a hot streak.
I don't know. Vacant's top 5 for me, so I think
Vacant. The chase for Vacant, always dope. Calvin saying Tiffany may have had some physical adjustments. Like getting her back aligned. I don't know.
I've noticed a couple of physical adjustments without being specific.
I'm really not touching this one.
I don't know what he means. I don't know what he means in terms of
like you need your
chiropractor.
Yeah, you need like your back crack. Physical
ankles,
adjustments. Yeah, you get an adjustment made. Physical adjustment.
Stuff. Yeah.
Yes. People are gonna troll us with this now. Like, what if Tiffany's part of the Joe Gacy faction as the mystery woman? That would be terrible. Someone said maybe Tiffany joins Bray Wyatt in the Wyatt 6.
Let's just do the Wyatt 12.
Yeah. What if everybody is part of the Wyatt family? I'm going to just put this out there because I know WWE, some people in creative watch this show. The number one thing they have left money with Bray Wyatt on the table of for his entire run is the idea that Bray Wyatt and his persona, his essence can like possess other people. The biggest money gimmick is if you start having other wrestlers start talking like Bray Wyatt and Bray Wyatt's possess them.
How many careers are you trying to ruin here?
It would be, but if done well, it could be so good.
Yeah, but I would think that I think the more magic he does, I think the more nervous people are going to get. I think as long as, because this guy Rob Fide got, he's supposed to be a horror genius wizard, somebody who knows how to book this type of stuff. And I do think there is absolutely an art to booking the type of horror gimmick that Bray Wyatt does. I know it's polarizing, but I thought the Firefly Funhouse match with John Cena was fantastic.
Oh, it's one of my favorite matches ever.
Yeah, it needs to be along those lines of creativity, within the context of wrestling. You've got the Easter eggs about the wrestling business and people's careers, but without getting, and even though they went too far outside the box, without getting too silly and hokey to where it makes your opponent look foolish.
Dylan Matthews saying, what if Tiffany Stratton's part of the bloodline?
Another honorary Oos.
I'd be here for it. And that's the thing. And Calvin saying, oh, adjustments. People are saying enhancements. Look, Tiffany Stratton, if whatever makes you happy, do it. I believe in you. You do what you think is best for you. But I think Tiffany Stratton is a next generation megastar in the WWE.
Yeah, and it doesn't get talked about enough, but there unfortunately is a pressure, especially in WWE, to get adjustments made, whatever you want to call it, plastic surgery, whatnot. I'm not assuming that this is why, but there has been a history of, Serena Deeb mentioned this and hinted toward it in a recent promo on AEW of the powers that be do reward, not necessarily pressure people to do anything, but they do reward individuals who get the proper enhancements for the WWE.
Well, that's why Goldust offered to do it, because he was like, this will be great for my career. I've already got the blonde hair.
Would have been the greatest adjustments in history. I'm furious that they didn't let him do that.
I would like to visit the reality that happened in.
They'd be in the Smithsonian right now, I promise.
Or they would have been canceled off the air.
Regardless, they'd have taken those two things.
Yeah,
you know what's funny? Do you think that if he got fired or if he went to WCW at 7, that out of pettiness they would have made him take those out and give them back and said that those two things were property of WWE? Yeah.
I mean, it's really weird, right? Like, and I've railed against this before. I don't like that there's like a stereotypical look that Vince favored or Kevin Dunn or, anyone in position of power. I don't like that. And I am always a champion of anyone that goes against that. With Tiffany Stratton's gimmick, though, she is kind of like the Uber version. Almost, the reason why I think she works so well is because she's almost like a self-parody of what Vince's ideal female superstar would be.
Absolutely. And if anybody, and I mean this in the best way possible, strictly speaking in the context of the Tiffany Stratton character, I overlooked the fact that she may or may not have had enhancements. I just assumed it was there because of how well she plays a character, which is this stereotypical, very superficial, materialistic individual. I always kind of associated like, oh, of course she already has that kind of work done. Of course, somebody like that would get that work done. Again, speaking of the character. So I do think that in the context of the Tiffany Stratton character, this does fit.
And in fact, I think this could be the first time since China that we see it like acknowledged, even in kayfabe, if that's the case.
Yeah, and let's not all act like these women are always being forced into it and that they wouldn't do this anyway, and that this isn't something that they personally prefer. And if she was able to explore that, again, this is a very nuanced type idea to explore that I would like to see them. I think people are so used to the argument that these women are being exploited and this, that, and the third. And there is an argument to be made that in the television industry, not just wrestling, when you're presenting women on television, they are more rewarded when they get work done and when they look a certain way. But somebody to embrace that, I think, would be very interesting. It's what Scarlett Bordeaux was doing in Impact that I thought was getting a lot of buzz years ago.
It's weird, though, because TV has evolved largely from the idea of, like, you have to look a certain way to be on television. Like, I think there's so much more diversity of everything now.
In terms of,
So it is interesting. But for that gimmick, I could see that in some promo that, like, her daddy paid for them. We still don't know, is her daddy her father?
I would love if she said that. I would love if she said that her daddy paid for them.
Yeah. Sheet Black, thank you for the super chat. Is very good, I think, in the year 2022 that two men are having this discussion without a female voice present. I think
we should be.
Yeah.
I would love to hear the female perspective, obviously, but we are entitled to our opinions, and this is just how I am sharing in terms of what I see. But no, I definitely agree. There needs to definitely be more women in wrestling, and I'm just proud to be on a podcast with one of them, and not on Twitter when it's 90% men talking about wrestling.
It's really crazy. Calvin, $5. Truth be told, Tiffany's about to run NXT even before she was out. She's that gifted. I agree. I think Tiffany Stratton could be one of the biggest stars in all professional wrestling.
Yeah, but you don't want to rush it with her because she and from an in-ring standpoint, is not ready. She's a phenomenal athlete, but she could stand to spend some time in NXT, have a world championship run. You know, we're going to get into Pretty Deadly, who I think are going to be big stars, but they clearly need more time to develop like a timing in front of an audience. And I think that's something that Tiffany Stratton would benefit from before going to WWE.
Nathan Frazier versus Axiom in like their 300th match tonight. What did you think of this? Nathan Frazier getting the win.
I thought it was a very good match, but it was funny because Booker T brought up, or I think it was Vic Joseph brought up the best of 5 series between Booker T and John Cena, which I forgot. And that was a very, very good series of matches. So if I forgot that, I'm going to forget the hell out of this. I thought it was a good, physically entertaining match, but the storyline based around it didn't do enough to make me emotionally connected. So I was ready to get past this. I got sucked into how good the match was, but it's not something I'm going to be remembering maybe even a month from now. You know, there's a best of 7 series between Booker T and Chris Benoit that WWE wants you to forget about. But whether they want you to forget about this one or not, I think a lot of people will.
Yeah, and I think that there's no shortage of good wrestling.
Yeah.
You know, and I haven't really felt the story beyond this that much. I like Axiom. I think he's cool. I think Nathan Frazier doesn't quite check my boxes for, you know, what I like in a wrestler, but I think he's talented. You know, it's just not my thing. And they shook hands after, and it's all good. So after that, man, a lot of build up tonight for this main event, which we'll talk about. I like Grayson Waller wearing his grandma's sunglasses because of Apollo Crews attacking his eyes.
Yes, it's very funny. He is being very entertaining, but we're starting to get very supernatural with this. Is Apollo Crews the Black Fiend? Is he the NXT's Black answer to Bray Wyatt?
We should use for that.
I get Black Fiend vibes from Apollo Crews, especially after tonight.
Okay. Ivy Nile is a pocket monster, and Apollo Crews is Black Fiend vibes.
He's the Black Fiend. We got to get Apollo Crews masks with eyes. No. They got to sell Apollo Crews contacts. Those will fly off the shelves.
Yeah. Oh my God. Indy Hartwell versus Valentina Perez tonight. Indy getting a win. What do you do with Indy at this point?
Good question. I thought they were going to bring Indy and Dexter back. I thought he was going to take her back to the main roster, but then they immediately paid it off with him saying goodbye and getting taken away by the police. And I thought that was a missed opportunity. I want to see Indy on the main roster with Dexter because he's been trading water with Miz. I don't think it's the best entry point for him, especially as a babyface who's just chasing this guy around and his family. And I would rather see Index on the main roster.
Yeah. No, I think that would be good. Pretty Deadly appeared to congratulate her, and Pretty Deadly was there for the triple threat for the number 1 contenders match for the NXT Tag Team Championships. Man, Pretty Deadly has had such a hot run lately of promos. This felt kind of a little mid.
Yes. I felt like this had its moments, and watching this made me realize I figured it out. Pretty Deadly is a gay Edge and Christian. That's what they are. They have that vibe to be,
and kayfabe potentially.
Very exactly kayfabe, gay Edge and Christian, LGBTENC. I think that they have that chemistry. They have that star power that's there. It's just they need to work it out a little bit more. And parts of this promo started to die, especially toward the end. There was this shot because they were on that big platform where they shot them kind of from the side so you could see the entire crowd and they were all lit. And you just see the faces of this crowd are looking at these guys like, man, what the hell is going on? I got my kids here. Like, they definitely need to get out of Florida because I think the good thing of this is that they are only going to get better in terms of having crowds to work with. Like in Florida, where you can't even say gay, I don't think it's going to get over as much as like when they get to the Chase Center, when they go to San Francisco. When this act goes to Atlanta, I think people are really going to get over. But I think that Pretty Deadly needs more time in front of crowds because they had that segment last week that I thought was well-intended and I thought could have been really, really great, but it underperformed. And I just feel like they need to figure out how to perform better in front of a live crowd.
One of the best moments on this podcast was explaining to Matt Morgan how at the wrestling shows I went to for NXT, how the FTR was received much differently in a much different context than they normally are. And it used to delight me.
Yeah, that's the thing. And if you're performing in front of the same crowd, especially, I just don't think that this particular crowd would embrace them as much as going around the country in WWE. And I do think that eventually NXT, as this very talented tag team gets its kinks figured out, these crowds are going to really love Pretty Deadly. I particularly like the fact that if you watch them from behind, it said DP, which I didn't know they were into that. Pretty Deadly Wild. You ever do
really
any DP?
Really on a mission tonight, aren't you, buddy?
No, I'm just
really on a mission tonight.
Have you done any DP before in your life?
Oh, God. We'll have a conversation off the air. Good Lord. No, I like that they're pushing the boundaries, and I actually like that they're pushing the boundaries without explicitly stating anything. Look, I think these guys are pretty. I think they belong to the world. I think, like, if I'm Pretty Deadly, why do I limit myself? Like, you know, I'm like Omni at this point, but I love Pretty Deadly. I just thought this promo tonight was not as inspired as some of their previous promo work.
No. I thought that this was overall a misfire. I think it had promise, and I was excited at the prospects, but
with Dango in Impact now, I'm bummed that we probably won't get the Fashion Police. Maybe Tyler Breeze, but we won't get the Fashion Police versus Pretty Deadly anytime soon.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say anytime soon because those Impact contracts can always be finessed. They're typically of the shorter term variety. And I do believe that if Dango got the call from the head offices, he would be in Stamford, Connecticut in a moment's notice. Just like Mia Yim will be.
Yeah. Oh, so Mia Yim, yeah, her Impact I could see Mia Yim coming back. Mm-hmm. So we had the Dyad with Joe Gacy versus Idris Enofe and Malik Blade versus Brooks and Dunn with Fallon Henley, and a number one contenders match for the NXT Tag Team Championships. And the new number one contenders are Enofe and Blade. What did you think of this?
I was pleasantly surprised. I thought it was going to be the Dyad. They've been getting a lot of attention, but of course,
no, they're going to be part of the Wyatt Six.
Yeah, they're going to add on to that Wyatt Six. You guys be careful what you wish for with this Wyatt Six because, yeah, you're going to get the Dyad. You're going to get everybody. But yeah, I'm glad that Enofe and Idris, or Enofe and Blade won. I think that they are a very entertaining tag team when they do stuff with them. I know they've been saying that they need to be more serious. I don't agree. I think that they're funny. I think it's a very rare find to find legitimately funny people who can perform funny skits in the context of WWE, and these two are those guys. And I think it'll be interesting, the dynamic of Pretty Deadly versus Idris and Blade, because they're both kind of comedy acts, and I feel like that Blade and Enofe will have to get more serious in order to make a cohesive feud with Pretty Deadly.
Yeah, no, I could see that, and I think it'll be good. I think they're going to have a great match.
Yeah, I think it should be their best matches, some of their best matches, because Pretty Deadly is a veteran tag team, and that's exactly what these two guys need in terms of Idris and Blade.
Yeah, we'll see, man. Halloween Havoc is shaping up to be an interesting card.
Yeah, it'll be a good wrestling card, and they're teasing a lot of WWE appearances to come down the pike. So I think they're panicking about the rating they did last week. Last week was not a good number for what was supposed to be this premiere and this new era of NXT, and didn't really do the numbers they wanted. Yeah, the hurricane did help them, but
no, absolutely.
But they're clearly trying to rebuild this audience.
We went from that to Alba Fire versus JC Jane, but the headline, Alba Fire got that win, but the headline was that Sonya Deville showed up, beating down Alba Fire after.
Makes sense. Mandy Rose's best friend. Well, shout out to the Mandy's Donuts. If we're looking at it in canon, and they kind of brushed it off, where she's like, "We have our differences, but you still are my best friend."
Differences, like, that was pretty tense when that broke up.
Do you think WWE is going to treat the pandemic like it didn't happen, like it's not part of canon?
Yes.
Like Otis never had long hair and was kissing Mandy Rose,
which was one of the best storylines of the pandemic era.
I feel like WWE is treating the pandemic like Big Brother over the top, or Celebrity Big Brother, where it's not really included in terms of the history of Big Brother when you're looking at winners. It's just a thing that they did on the side.
Is that how you try and explain it to your relationship? You know, it's like, this isn't canon, baby. Yeah. Like, this is just something I did on the side.
This is just a fever dream for you.
This didn't actually happen in our mainstream continuity. You're basically just talking about fan fiction at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything we did, we went to Applebee's, fan fiction, not real.
Malik Black, $2. That clothesline Briggs did to Blade.
Yes,
Ouch.
very stiff.
That was it was a good match.
It was a pretty good match. It got some pretty tepid "this is awesome" chants, but I do think these guys were working hard.
No, absolutely. And nice to see Sonya Deville.
Yeah, I thought this was going to be a welcome addition. I wonder if they're going to do a 4-woman stable with Pretty Deadly, which I think can help. We typically don't. I mean, we talk a lot about the horsewomen, but they're not a stable. It's just a reference to 4 women. Yeah, with Toxic Attraction, we really in WWE very rarely, if ever, have had a 4-woman stable. And Triple H is a big fan of his heel stables. You see Damage Control, you see Judgment Day. God forbid this Wyatt 6 that people are going to hate in 6 months. That's why they're going to call it the Wyatt 6. And he's got all these potential heel stables, and I could see them doing this with 4 women. So if he's going to lean in on these heel stables, why not put a twist on them? Let's get some women's stables involved.
Yeah. Speaking of which, was Pretty Deadly? What were they? Pretty Deadly in NXT UK?
Yes, I believe that's what they were called. Elton Prince and
that's 2021. I bet you Pretty Deadly was a runner-up name for Toxic Attraction.
I could see it. I can see both of them having those. I think a Pretty Deadly could be called Toxic Attraction.
Yeah. So Schism backstage freaking out after their loss, and Grimes gonna have to.
Sorry, I forgot. It was a late pause.
Wait, about what? What did I say? What did I say?
No, it was something I said. Pretty Deadly could be Toxic Attraction. You know, it could be something that I'm attracted. If you're into for that, I find them very attractive.
Grimes is going to have to face Schism 3-on-1. Potentially.
Who do you think is going to win that match? And do you care?
No. They've made Cameron Grimes so much worse in this feud.
Yeah, and he was kind of vacillating between the Cameron Grimes billionaire character and just regular old Cameron Grimes that we see today. And he teased that he's bringing somebody from WWE. So maybe this is where we finally get Cameron Grimes and Baron Corbin coming together. And maybe JBL gets thrown into that.
Yeah, he's their money manager. He helps both of them.
Yeah.
And so we also have that Roxanne Perez is bringing someone from SmackDown. She's going to be on SmackDown. She's bringing someone to help her. Cora Jade wanted to get in touch with Ronda Rousey, which was pretty funny. But Cora Jade's going to go to Raw and get somebody to help her.
Yeah, I don't know where they're going to go with that one. I'm kind of trying to think of candidates where she can go to Raw. Maybe it'll be a tag team. Maybe it will be Damage Control. But interesting. They're really, really going to be doing crossovers between WWE and NXT.
Smart. But no, I think it's going to be like maybe Shotzi helping Roxanne, and
I can see that.
I don't know who on Raw is going to help Cora. It'd be cool if it was Bailey. I don't think it's going to be Bailey.
Bray Wyatt. Coming home.
All the fantasy booking for Bray Wyatt has been terrible, but here's the crazy thing. What actually happens is actually going to disappoint a lot of people because it's not their fantasy booking.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a gift and the curse.
I'm seeing this now with the new Quantum Leap. Like, there's a lot of old school fans of the original series, and you read their criticism of it, and it reminds me of like going to Disney World with your parents, and you had a really good time, and on the way home your parents are just like, well, they got rid of this ride, and Walt originally used to want it to be an affordable park, and now the ticket prices are through the roof, and I don't like this, and I don't like this, and it's just like, shut up, old man. Like, things evolve and change,
Exactly. I am so jealous of the time during high school, during the Attitude Era, in our adolescence, when it was all new to us, and we got legitimately excited for wrestling matches and wins and losses. But now we're so overexposed to information, and we're so cynical as a society that has essentially run out of ideas in terms of what to produce with all these reboots, that people are so quick to say, oh, it's not as good as its original, and could have done this better and that better. I just think we know too much.
And now when somebody does something new or fresh or a modern update, they're like, oh, it's too woke, or I don't know, like they find other things to complain about. It's just really unfortunate. Dream Realm Studios is a good point. Rhea could help Cora. That would actually be pretty dope.
And that was teased. She did mention Rhea Ripley, and I can see Cora Jade being a member of the Judgment Day. She's got that vibe.
I want to see Rhea versus Beth after that interaction they had on Sunday. I did end up
the reaction it got.
Yeah, that was great. Wes Lee took on Stax. Match of the year?
Match of the year, yes. Stax is the comeback wrestler of the year. Breakout performer of 2022.
Wesley won, poor Stax. But afterwards, Trick and Carmelo launched an attack on Wes. Ora Mensa ran out to even the odds.
Wes Lee and Stax, for one reason or another, are both in similar situations where they're just essentially fish out of water who their better halves have left them and they both need something else. It was good to see Tony D'Angelo back on this show.
Oh, yeah, that was nice. He's got a surprise for Stax.
Yeah, he could absolutely use it in terms of Stax. But we were talking about Nate Frazier earlier, and it looks like he'll be teaming up with Axiom, which I'm fine with. But I really love the idea of MSK rebooting through Wes Lee and Nate Frazier. I thought that would be a much better alternative, especially given how hot MSK was, that they could just pick up where they left off. Two great high flyers. And I think it's unfortunate and a missed opportunity. I'd much rather see a rebooted MSK than Axiom and Nate Frazier as a tag team.
So we had Creed backstage with Ivy Nile, or they were in the hospital visiting Roderick Strong in the hospital. He's ready to be released. Diamond Mine forever.
It feels like that. I mean, they're never going to break up. They're never going to stop talking about this.
Kiana James took on Thea Hale. Kiana James getting the win.
Yeah, they were doing a lot with her. It kind of left something to be desired. Wasn't a big fan of those backstage segments with Kiana James.
And this is tough because I think Kiana James is talented.
Yes.
But I feel like this gimmick is like third in the line hand-me-downs.
Yeah. It just felt like a stage play, how it was all coming together. It didn't feel authentic. And I mean, again, maybe she needs more time to figure this out, but it wasn't my favorite. I'm not connected to this at all.
Drew Gulak will make this gimmick as good as it can be.
Yeah, he needs to come over there and get his gimmick back. He needs to file copyright infringement.
That would actually be a good story, that he's threatening to sue her. And then he somehow ends up her manager, you know?
And then they can have like competing PowerPoint presentations as to who wins the case.
And the deal is supposed to be 50-50, but they do the argument of 51-49 of like who has more in the partnership. Like you could do a lot with this.
That'd be fun. It would be good. Sell a lot of Microsoft Office products.
Yeah, but Thea Hale I like a lot. Chase U still remarkably over. Robert Stone was out there. Thea Hale. Yeah, that's the reason why she lost. I don't know, man. So let's talk about Imagine Dragunov versus Grayson Waller in the main event tonight.
Imagine Dragunov. He's got very catchy theme music. This was a very solid match. We got a little spooky from Apollo Crews, Black Fiend.
Yeah.
But take it or leave it, you know? I'm not excited about the triple threat.
The Black Fiend is like is it the worst name of like to just be like I'm the black version of this other thing.
Of this character that died a horrible death the last time we saw him.
I don't think we want him to. I think they're gonna get some letters if it goes that route, and rightfully so.
Oh, they don't want to call him the Black Fiend, but but that's how he's being booked. He's being booked as a spooky, and the wheel magically showed up.
Yeah, that's not. Yeah. Okay, moving on.
What about the African American Fiend? We can't call him that. You could. It's nothing politically.
Why don't you pitch your online screen name? You know, just tweet it at Apollo and be like, I will gift this to you if you want to take this on. It's going to be huge in the Attitude Era.
For a good enough fee, I will gift him that copyright of the African Black Hawk.
Do you have that .com? You should have that .com. And both with the and without. Okay. Oh, and Quincy Elliott had a nice little backstage segment. We also got a video hyping up Nikita Lyons and Zoe Stark.
Yeah. Okay. Let me talk about this video. Like, Katana Chance and Kaden Carter have been friends for years, like legit. They've been a tag team for years. Then they did that segment, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago. I didn't like it at all. You would have never known that they have this chemistry together, that they've known each other for years. Whereas Nikita and Zoe just came together and didn't seem to have that chemistry. And they had all the chemistry in the world in terms of being on camera, cutting this promo as a tag team. They even showed some footage of them when they were training. And I thought they were very loose and funny with each other. I thought they did a much better job.
Oh, Nikita and Zoe are winning those championships.
Yeah, I'm just based on these two vignettes alone, if this is all we have to go off of, which it is because the match is next week, definitely Zoe and Nikita. I even though Katana and Kaden are a tag team and they've been a tag team for longer and they're pretty early into their run, I just thought that Zoe and Nikita seemed like a better pairing.
I mean, yeah. And this is a great pairing. I do not see any scenario where they do not win those titles.
Really? Well, because they don't want to beat Nikita Lyons is what I'm thinking. I'm just thinking that they want to keep her unbeaten by any means necessary. And I don't even think they'd want to do a cheap thing where Zoe takes the loss. I do think that they could have Nikita and Zoe win these titles and maybe Kaden and Katana break up.
Yeah. I think Kaden and Katana, I think Kaden could be a singles megastar.
Yeah, I absolutely think that she can, especially given her hyper athletic background with American Ninja Warriors and the things that she can do in such a small package as she continues to get better. I think her finish is amazing. I think that tag team finish is amazing with the 450 splash. But I do think that she's very promising. And I think Triple H in the NXT era sees it right now.
That'll be interesting to see what happens. Yeah, which way they go with it, you know? I mean, I think both of them could do very well as singles stars. Yeah. It will be interesting to see. So that's interesting. Baby I saying, do you think they're going to turn heel?
They did tease it before they won those titles, and then they won the titles. It went kind of cold. And I think if they lose, I do see them breaking up. And I think at this point, you just kind of got it. They've gone as far as they can. They broke up Cora and Roxanne before they even became a real tag team for too long. So I don't think it'd be too early to do it with these two. And why not?
And with Tony D'Angelo, like, it's good to see Tony D worry. I mean, Stacks should not be repping the family. No offense to Mr. Stacks. Quincy Elliott, I'm worried that they're not doing enough with Quincy.
Yeah, they're really taking their time integrating Quincy Elliott on a TV in terms of a wrestler. I do think the value in Quincy is going to be as a performer and what Quincy is able to do outside of the ring. And they're trying things out, but I would like to see a solid storyline. And it looks like they're headed that direction, but Quincy's just kind of associated with Hank Walker right now. And I would like to see them actually dive into this Quincy character. Who are they? What do they do? How can they perform and captivate a crowd? I think there's a lot that they can capitalize on.
No, absolutely. So back to the main event, Imagine Dragunov versus Grayson Waller with JD Madonna on commentary.
Yes, and speaking of commentary, it's good to see Booker T back. It'll be definitely a different type of commentary between Booker and Vic. I really did enjoy Vic and Wade together. They had like a big brother or little brother relationship where Vic Joseph seemed like the smarmy little brother, and they would just kind of quip at one another in a very fun way. But that's not the same thing with Booker, because you just kind of got to set Booker up. And, if Vic tried some of the comments he said to Wade with Booker, Book would clap right back and try him. And not necessarily in a witty and fun banter way. He would just be like, hey, you better watch out, dog. And it would be a very uncomfortable situation for Vic. So I feel like it's a completely different chemistry.
Why's your impression of Booker sound like Tom Waits?
The older Booker gets, the more he does sound like Tom Waits. It used to be like the end of a sentence would be like this, but like now every word he says is like, we going to the NXT, dog. It's going to be good. He's like doing an impression of Booker T.
I want to hear Booker like singing Downtown Train and I Don't Want to Grow Up. It would be great. King Mike's World, interesting idea. Bring Elektra Lopez to the D'Angelo family.
Yes, she actually did a good job when they were doing the crossover. I think she was the only one who really even came close to getting over from Legado del Fantasma when they were with the D'Angelo family.
And let's see. Michelle O'Rourke Johansson asking an interesting question. Do you think the WWE learned from their mistakes where Bray Wyatt's concerned?
If they bring out the Wyatt 6, no. Then they're doubling down on those mistakes. Okay, this Wyatt family, and it's good to have stuff surrounding Bray Wyatt, but I really hope they're intelligent about this. I don't necessarily want to see a stable with Bray Wyatt, but then again, who knows what they're preparing? They have a director of long-time creative, which I think is going to be a game changer because hopefully Bray Wyatt will be able to tell a story, and we're going to get time, and people are going to be invested over time.
Yeah, this main event was tough tonight, though. Thinking back to this, I mean, Dragunov won. Breaker surprised Dragunov, hit him with a spear as McDonough watched. I mean, I'm just not invested in this triple. Like, why? Why hasn't Breaker had a great feud yet?
That's a good question because this is not one of them. There is no real creative reason for me to get into this, and that's where it's tough. It's fine that it's about, oh, I'm going to see who's best. We're going to have this championship match to decide who's best. We got to do better than that if you want to build a television audience. We got to start getting some girlfriends hit on. People's dads got to get beat up. Not kidnapped like Joe Gacy. You don't have to go over the top, but we need some extra creative juice in order for this championship run to really pop off.
Yeah, they got to do something. Got to do something because this is your champion, and he is often in the least interesting feud in all of NXT.
Let's get Scott Steiner involved. Let's get Scott Steiner in Florida for a month, and we do something. Somebody hurts Scott Steiner, he's got to avenge, and maybe they tag team. But I need something to help Braun Breaker.
Yeah.
I continue to be a supporter of his, but it's hard if they're really not doing much to showcase him in the most entertaining light.
Yeah. Halloween Havoc is a week from this weekend.
Yeah, but isn't it next week? So the go home show for Halloween Havoc is next week, which, my God, next week, ladies and gentlemen, we're going head to head. AEW Dynamite on a Tuesday night.
Oh, thank God
NXT.
I'm out next Tuesday.
Oh, really? Oh, man, you're going to miss all the toxicity in the comments. It's going to be a great night of wrestling on the 18th. It's a go-home show for NXT, and it's also AEW Dynamite Live. Who do you think wins? Okay, so now that we're going to not see you next week, who do you got? NXT versus AEW.
Dynamite probably wins, but I think they do half their usual number.
It's very interesting because they had several segments when they teased that they're going to go to WWE. We're probably going to see NXT people on SmackDown, which is WWE's A show. Yeah. This SmackDown is going to do a big number because of Bray Wyatt being on it. So with that big audience, WWE is probably going to put a bunch of NXT people there. And again, the talking points in front of the camera is that's our developmental. We're not competing with AEW. And if they lose to AEW, which I think they will next week, they can have an out by saying, it's just developmental. But I do think that quietly WWE is trying to build a show to compete and maybe beat NXT or beat AEW head to head. But I do think the audience is smaller for AEW, but I do think they edge out a victory.
Okay. There you have it. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Issa should be back Friday. I'm at Glenn Rubenstein. Alfred's at This Is Nasty. What's coming up on the pro wrestling bits? What do you got in the works?
Going to have a bit within the next day dropping about Bray Wyatt, whether or not this thing is going to be a flop. I can be proven either way, and I go over the pros and cons as to whether or not this is going to work, because hopefully it does. And I think with Triple H in charge and more creativity, we are on the right track. But there is also a universe where this comes crashing and burning, just like it has the last couple of times, and these people turn on him just like they did in 2018 and just like they did in 2021.
There you go. But if it catches on, Apollo could be the Black Fiend.
Hell yes. Let's get that Black Fiend out here. Get those red eye contacts. Let's sell some eye contacts.
Would he have his own Firefly Funhouse?
Oh, absolutely. Firefly Trap House. I'm here for that.
Who are his puppet characters?
I was just thinking that.
I'm not touching this one. This is all Alfred's bit.
You can have that Urkel puppet. Remember when Steve Urkel had the puppet? You can have one of those. You know, that's a nice callback. What is this famous dummy's name? Come on, help me out here.
Oh,
famous dummy.
Yeah,
famous black dummy.
You know, what was it? AJ and
I would like to see. Oh, I can't even remember.
It was Willie. It was Willie Tyler.
Willie Tyler, yes, Willie Tyler. Yes, let's get Willie Tyler in the Firefly Trap House.
That's what I was thinking. Well, I was confused with Willie Tyler and Lester.
Yes. Oh, I'm here for it. I'm more excited about this than Bray Wyatt now. You got me hyped.
Okay, well, on that note, everybody, have a good week. We'll catch you back here next time on the Wrestling Inc. podcast. Take care.
Good night, everybody.